this chapter enlighten you and relax you. Chapter 43. The Doer burns out. Relatable. It was November of 2012, and I was 11. How to work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, especially if you don't need to. To be impoverished and unable to provide for your family without working 7 days a week is a situation too many people around the world face. But how to work constantly if you don't need to? I was not, of course, being paid for my service at the ashram, nor would I ever take money from the ashram or foundations, or our foundations. My parents, in one of the great blessings that I don't know how I deserved, support any financial need I have, from a new laptop to travel expenses to toothpaste. I also knew after my first several months here, that I wouldn't be kicked out unless I committed a horrible transgression. In the beginning, this all felt like a dream, like I had gone to sleep in the midst of a PhD, a marriage, and a normal life, and had awoken in a spiritual wonderland where my tasks were simple yet exhilarating. Then, over the years, as the quantity of Seva grew, so did its importance. We were building schools, orphanages, vocational training centers for women, and ashrams and medical clinics in Tibet, and of course there was the Encyclopedia of Hinduism. Plus, whenever any major natural disaster happened, we were right there. My first experience was the earthquake that struck the Himalayan town of Chamoli, 100 miles from Rishikesh, in the middle of the night of March 29th, 1999. Immediately, before dawn had broken, our ashram vehicles were on their way to the hills with blankets, food, water, and basic medicines. Over the next several weeks, we sent truckloads of supplies along with doctors. Then there was the cyclone in Orissa the same year. Then the earthquake in Gujarat of 2001, and the tsunami of South India and many other countries the day after Christmas in 2004. In the wake of the tsunami, we spent several weeks living in a government guest house on the coast of southern Tamil Nadu, in a village called Devanam Padinam. There we set up several large community kitchens providing 2 hot meals a day and milk for children and babies twice a day. We provided clothing, food, shoes, and other necessities for thousands of devastated villagers. We built more than 100 temporary homes and ultimately hundreds of permanent ones in Pondicherry. We built an orphanage with classrooms, a community center, a computer center, and vocational training for 200 women. Not working 7 days a week would be inconceivable. If only God would give us 8 days a week, we'd work 8. If only we didn't have to sleep or eat or bathe, we could get so much more done. And it was rewarding on many other levels. To simply finish off a folder full of papers that Swamiji had given me meant I got to go back, sit with him, give these papers back, and receive a new folder of new tasks. I loved finishing whatever was needed as quickly as I could, because the time between our meetings would then be shorter. I've just come to the realization that having a guru is just having like that old wizard in the tower that gives you quests in an RPG video game. You have successfully gathered all the supplies. It is time for another quest. In return, I shall give you 100 more experience points to invest in your spiritual connection to the divine. Once I had no more seva to do, Meeting together became a priority so more tasks could be given. And the experience of accomplishment was exhilarating. Not just like that of getting an A on an exam or completing a report. These accomplishments were tangible and benefited others. The time in 1998 that I raised money for sweaters for the children in our schools and placed the order for 1,500 sweaters, I was giddy with excitement. I did it! I thought to myself. It was a high that surpassed anything I'd felt in school, anything I'd experienced, chemically induced or otherwise. And when I got to help distribute the sweaters and see the faces of the children as they came up one by one and reached their tiny brown arms to grab a maroon woolen sweater, a perfect match for their brown and beige school uniforms, my glee couldn't be contained. Exactly, Gregorji. And beads for prayer as loot for the quest. In return, here is mala. Oh, I love that so much. Don't you ever take a day off? People would ask. What do you mean, a day off? I would ask back in bewilderment. Do you take a day off from breathing or living? What would I do? Paint my toenails in bed? Seva, in all its aspects and elements, was my life. Pujya Swamiji's teaching on service rang constantly through my ears and thoughts. Give, give, and give. He urged us, give like Mother Ganga, give like the sun, give, give, and give with no hesitation, no expectation, no discrimination, and no vacation. The sun never takes a vacation, he reminded us regularly. Mother Ganga never wakes up and says, I don't think I'll flow today. How to become like that? Living on the banks of Mother Ganga, we must take not only her blessings, but also her message. This was easy for me for many years. I remember being at my parents' house in Los Angeles on a short-term visit in the immediate wake of the Chamoli earthquake. We had found a generous donor from Mumbai who was prepared to donate large truckloads of supplies for the needy villagers. But someone had to send his office a list of what was needed. In early April 1999, I was the one who could get such a list prepared, typed and faxed with a nice cover letter before his office opened in the morning. When I called Pujya Swamiji to tell him I had arrived safely at my parents' house, he explained about the list and letter needed. Absolutely, I said. I'll do it right away. Fatigue vanished, and I was exhilarated by the opportunity to, through a few short minutes of typing, be a vehicle for relief supplies to get to the villagers. I pulled out my laptop and sat down at the very desk I had used throughout elementary and high school and began to work. After a few minutes, my mom came in and said, Honey, you've been traveling for 30 hours. Go to sleep. I assured her I was almost done and kept typing. Pujya Swamiji and our team on the ground had prepared a full list of exactly what was needed. Blankets, candles, water, biscuit packs, and tarpaulins. Not sure what that is. And warm clothing. For although it was springtime, the mountains are frigid 12 months a year. I prepared an effusively grateful cover letter and printed it out. As I stood over the fax machine, my mom came in again. Sweetheart, come on. It's late. Enough already. Can't somebody there do this? How to explain to the ashram's digital divide? In one office, work took place on a computer connected to the internet that could send printouts to an HP inkjet. And in the office across the way, work was handled by pen on carbon paper, spun on a mimeograph to make copies. I've never heard of that. And filed in cloth-bound register books. and how to explain the critical importance of this, not just for the earthquake survivors, but for the role Seva played in my life. No one else could send this fax, and yes, I would stand there all night if I had to, until someone in the donor's office picked up and responded to my request for a fax stone. It was rare in India for a fax machine to have its own dedicated phone line. The telephone would be answered by a secretary or another office worker who would or wouldn't be able to activate the fax machine and get a tone so my fax could be transmitted. I would do this patiently and exuberantly until the fax went through. No, sleep was not more important. Oily large pieces of material. That's what tarpaulins is. Interesting. And tarp is a shorthand of tarpaulin. Oh, I get it now. I see. Yes. I spent 15 years doing service from that perspective. Whatever, whenever, however, not out of compulsion or because I had no choice. If I'd said to Pujya Swamiji, I'm exhausted, I just landed in LA after 30 hours of travel, I have to go to sleep, he would have said, no problem, health is first, you can do it tomorrow. So, while he exhorts us to give, and give as a fundamental motto of life, he is also always one to remind us, take care of your body, health is first. Work will never be finished, so be sure to take care of your health. My fervency for service was not due to fear of reproach. To serve had simply become my life. I'd spent my first 25 years wrapped up in me, my drama, my history, my wants. Each ache, pain, sniffle, or sleepless night was cause for concern. Now, service, work for others, whether a letter of blessings or encouragement or condolences from Pujya Swamiji, whether schools or sweaters for children, whether a free medical camp or relief supplies, whatever it was my life. To serve had become my modus operandi. That night in LA and countless nights in Rishikesh, under no one's instructions other than my own, I stayed awake all night to finish something. The next day, while certainly sleepy, I was exhilarated. Then, after 15 years, I hit a wall. I had finished editing the Encyclopedia of Hinduism in early 2012. We were planning Pujya Swamiji's 60th birthday celebration that November. His birthday is in June, but it's too hot then to host an event with VIPs from all over the world. Our state government had erected a huge permanent platform that rose above the river in front of our ashram, a crescent shape, in the center of which we had placed an enormous statue of Lord Shiva. The stage was filled with 4 rows of leaders, religious, social, national, political, and business leaders. We themed the event Environmental Protection for World Peace. Our definition of peace has to expand, I explained in my welcome talk at the event. For centuries, religious leaders have come together at parliaments and summits in the name of peace, but today, more people are suffering and dying from a lack of clean water than from all forms of violence combined. Today, it is no longer enough to say, "Thou shalt not kill." Today, we must join hands to realize that if children of any race or religion suffer and perish due to our actions or inaction, their blood is on our hands. We are gathered here today in the name of a new, expanded definition of peace. We released Pujya Swamiji's biography that day as well, by God's grace. a book I had written with a beautiful foreword and introduction by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Chief Rabbi David Rosen, a renowned Jewish leader. Mandala published it gorgeously as a large format coffee table book. The event was a great success, and it wasn't until 2 weeks later that I realized I'd hit a wall. At first I thought I was just tired, and I slept a lot. I hadn't stopped working with urgency in years. Of course I was tired. I even thought about it neurologically. I was in parasympathetic nervous system backlash, when one stays fired up with stress. Even just the quote-unquote good stress of hectic, exciting work. When that ends, in order to return to homeostasis, the body switches from sympathetic fight-or-flight arousal into the parasympathetic nervous system mode, which slows the heart rate, slows the blood pressure, and so on. I figured, suffering the physiological and mental repercussions of a parasympathetic nervous system working overtime to balance years of intensity. But it didn't go away. I couldn't even seem to generate enthusiasm, let alone urgency for anything. Where had I gone? "I'm done," was about all I could say. I didn't even know what I was done with. Myself, it seemed. You can relate with that, Rhiannon. The hot flashes didn't help. They had started earlier that spring, and although I wasn't paying much attention to them yet, they were beginning to rattle me from the inside. As I looked at a paper or a file or an email, a physical agitation rose within me, as I began to shudder and had to look away. Hard work had felt so right for more than 15 years. What was happening? One day in mid-November, I said to Swamiji, "I need a vacation." "Okay, plan it," he said, looking up and chuckling. Wow, I must be in horrible shape, I thought. Vacation is a 4-lettered word here, and those who need one are clearly not serious about their spiritual practice or their service. And now, without a question or hesitation, he said yes. Every single time I thought I could second-guess him, every time I had prepared conversations in my mind of what I'd say and what he'd say, he invariably surprised me. "You're not quite so smart," he seemed to be saying. "You still haven't figured this thing out yet. Vacation's bad. Okay, got it. A vacation? Sure. What?" But I didn't want to hex it, lest he change his mind. A few weeks later, he had a trip planned to Japan for programs and meetings. I remembered that Swamiji has close devotees with a home on the big island of Hawaii. He had stayed there once, years earlier, en route from a meeting with the publishers of Hinduism Today magazine in Kauai. I remembered him saying how beautiful and peaceful it was. I contacted them. Could we spend 4 or 5 days there in December? Would they be there? They were, of course, excited. Beyond excited. People beg Pujya Swamiji to come visit them. He usually stays a night or two in cities around the world. 4 or 5 days was unheard of. Of course they'd be there. So I scheduled our flights to go to Hawaii first and then to Tokyo for our programs. Whatever spell Swamiji was under to approve my vacation plan seemed to have a long half-life. He okayed the itinerary and didn't at any point say, "What are you doing? That was just a test." I was embarrassed, but desperate and immensely grateful. I watched Sherlock Holmes movie on the plane. I had never watched movies on flights after moving to India. I had grown to believe doing so was a waste of time. There was so much work to do. There was no justification for time-wasting indulgence. And if I wasn't going to work, I'd rather meditate or read something inspiring, like a commentary on the Upanishads. Frivolous movies were out of the question. Yet, Here I was, headphones on, gripped by Sherlock Holmes' adventures. Swamiji sat next to me, working and meditating. When he saw my screen on his way to the bathroom, he said nothing. He didn't even make a face. I watched him carefully, ashamed for my transgression, yet feeling helpless to do anything else. I couldn't work, I couldn't meditate. Nothing about me seemed to function anymore. I just wanted to watch Sherlock Holmes. Yes, thank you for booping me, dear Shoshana. We had to change planes in Honolulu. In the airport gift shop, I picked up a DVD about Father Damien, a Belgian priest who had moved to the Hawaiian island of Molokai in 1873 to minister, spiritually, medically, and logistically, to the thousands of lepers quarantined there by the government of Hawaii. I stuck the DVD in my bag. I'd had a morbid fascination with leprosy since seeing lepers sitting on the bridge across Ganga in Rishikesh, deformed hands outstretched for spare change. What must that feel like, I wondered, to have your limbs fall off? I was disgusted and intrigued, but it was too intense to watch now. On the plane to Kona, I read the airline magazine about all the activities to do on all the islands. I didn't need activity though. I just wanted to melt into comfort, ease, and pleasure. I wanted to feel myself again. The next morning, comfortable in my plush bed at the devotee's home, I woke early and then went back to sleep. I'm on vacation, I told myself, and laughed before falling back into slumber. It was mid-morning by the time I woke again, and I went outside into the bright sunshine. Swamiji was seated at a round patio table on a huge covered porch overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The outline of the island of Maui could be seen across a deep blue channel. He had a placement in front of him and 7 or 8 of his small spiraled notepads on the table. He was writing intently in one of them. "Did you rest well?" he asked. Shouldn't I have been the one asking him? I said, unable to put words into the joy I felt looking out over the ocean. "How did you sleep?" "Oh, wonderful," he said, and returned his attention to the notepads. "What are you doing?" I asked incredulously. Here he sat in picture book paradise, and he was writing notes in pads. "Oh, I'm planning for the toilets and clean water in the Kumbh Mela," he said with a huge smile. I stared at him. I don't know why I was surprised. I was the one who needed a vacation, not him. Still, I couldn't believe it. Seriously? Here? Toilets? "See," he said, opening one of the other notepads that lay on the placemat. "I already did all the plans for where we'll put the toilets on the Char Dham route between Haridwar and Badrinath. I did that before breakfast." Page after page of his tiny pad was filled with his impeccably neat Devanagari script. I looked at all the bullet points he'd drawn, perfect black pinpoint circles. I'll continue reading in just a moment, but my phone is ringing. Or the alarm is going off, I should say, so I'm going to turn that off. Thank you. Perfect black pinpoint circles neatly lined up on the left-hand side of the mini page, and next to each bullet point was a word in Hindi, each one of the locations of future toilets. He flipped page after page with glee. "And now," he said, putting that pad down and picking up the one he'd been writing in, "now I am planning for the upcoming Kumbh Mela. It is so wonderful. We will have Ganga Tat Pe Ganga Jal, clean water from Ganga on the banks of Ganga with this new filtration system. I am planning the locations for that and where our biodigester toilets can go." During his 60th birthday celebration, the Indian government's Defence Research and Development Organization, DRDO, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, and our organization had signed a memorandum of understanding to work together to bring into common usage the DRDO's biodigester toilet, invented for soldiers deployed at a high altitude, a high-end engineering feat using enzymes to turn fecal matter into grey water. FICCI would help, through its corporate and social responsibility schemes, to put these toilets, which don't require elaborate sewage systems or treatment plants, at locations we would identify. The Kumbh Mela was due to take place in January and February 2013 in Allahabad, in eastern Uttar Pradesh, at the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, and invisible Saraswati rivers. It is said that the Saraswati River goes underground at Mana, a tiny town high in the Himalayas, past the holy temple of Badrinath, just before the India-China border. You can see the river dive under the flowing Alakananda River, at what's known as Bhima Pool, a large rock bridging the Saraswati River, and said to have been pushed there by Bhima, one of the heroes of the Mahabharata war, the setting of the Bhagavad Gita. It is believed that the Saraswati River appears again only at the confluence of these sacred three rivers in Allahabad, or Prayagraj, the majestic confluence. More than 120 million people would flock to the Kumbh Mela over the main 8 weeks on the most auspicious days. 30 million people would bathe in the Triveni Sangam, the confluence. In addition to the ceremonies, prayers, rites, and discourses, our main agenda was environmental protection. How could we make use of tens of millions of people in one place, full of devotion, sponges ready to broadcast the messages and teachings for a mass awareness-raising campaign? Our slogan was Green Kumbha, Clean Kumbha, Green India, Clean India. At the bare minimum, we wanted to work with local authorities to ensure that the riverbed of the sacred rivers did not become polluted by the waste of tens of millions of people. A Mela with a message, Swamiji had said. Not just inspiration, but also sanitation. Sanitation and meditation must go hand in hand. We must turn our focus from temples to toilets. The slogans rolled from his heart and off his tongue. And now, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, with the sun rising behind us, not yet overhead, a humpback whale breaching in the distance, he was planning toilets. "I can't believe it," I said. "This is the problem," he replied, taking off his reading glasses. "To you, it is work. To me, it is ecstasy. You see yourself as the doer of work, so you feel tired. If it doesn't go your way, you feel frustrated. If it goes your way, you feel proud. I do not think like that. I am not the doer." He looked far off, sort of up and sort of just out toward the ocean. He is the doer. God is the doer. I am just his instrument. If I can be used every minute and every moment, for me, that is ecstasy. It is not work. I love it. I had loved it too, I realized, squinting my eye as I walked toward the edge of their porch, no longer covered by the awning. I sat on the rough cement edge with flower pots hanging below and looked out. Other than the homes down the hill, all I could see was ocean, vast ocean. Yes, I had also loved the work. Oh, I already read that paragraph. After finishing the Encyclopedia of Hinduism, a task that I didn't read that paragraph, it just starts the same. Yes, I had also loved the work passionately, but he was right. Even in my love for it, I was still the doer. I loved it because it made me feel useful. I was accomplishing beneficial tasks. I loved finishing what I'd been given, especially if I could do so faster and better than Swamiji had anticipated. And now the doer had burnt out. After finishing the Encyclopedia of Hinduism, a task that in my wildest dreams I had not imagined could be done, after writing his biography, a project I'd wanted to do since my first month at the ashram, and having it turned into a gorgeous coffee table book, after organizing the biggest event our state had ever seen in honor of his 60th birthday, after all this, there was nowhere to go. Nothing else I did felt meaningful. The dominoes of my mind began to tumble. Swamiji had pushed the first one, saying, "You think you are the doer," and the rest toppled down, one at a time. As the doer, it was all about me, what I could do, what I could accomplish, how good it was, how big it was, how fast it was, how many children or women or disaster survivors could be helped. Rather than me being an instrument for them, they had been tools for me. Pieces in the game of my life. I arranged them in a way that I felt accomplished, worthy. How many sweaters or schools or computers would it take until I felt deserving of existence? Swamiji was not building toilets to feel worthy. He was building toilets because toilets were meant to be built, and he was the vehicle God had chosen. He was building them the same way he planted trees, the same way he did everything, as an available tool. If God wanted the work done, Swamiji was ready. If God did not want the work done, if insurmountable obstacles presented themselves, so be it. As a tool, he was sure he'd be picked up and used for something else. It was never about what he wanted or thought. I identified with the children, with the abandoned women, with the sick patients. If I could treat enough of them, provide for enough of them, maybe I could assuage the women, children, and patients in me. If I could hand back enough empty file folders to Swamiji, do everything faster, better, bigger than he'd imagined, maybe I would feel worthy of his blessings and the grace that had been bestowed on me. And if I couldn't, I was not worthy and might be sent away, abandoned again. Oh, wow, I whispered aloud as I watched sailboats and surfers far below. Wow. Orange robes or white robes, there was so much to heal inside. I pulled out a white patio chair with a floral cushion from the round table where Swamiji was listing locations for toilets in a makeshift city at the confluence of sacred rivers. I sat across from him and asked, "How to fix this?" Focus on realizing that you are not the doer. Focus on the real doer. Remember, you are serving your own higher self in others. It's not about you, the capable you, the intelligent you, or the dedicated you. It is about one part of the greater divine self serving another part. Like my stomach serves the body by digesting food, my lungs serve the body by breathing. The lungs never say, "You know, I'm the one keeping you alive, it's all because of me." And they never get tired of breathing. Because there is no sense of doership, they are just lungs, and so they breathe. The stomach is just a stomach, and so it digests. When you realize that you're not separate from this existence, not separate from the Creator, you will just serve without a sense of doership. Then the fatigue and frustration will be gone. The next evening, After I spent the day snorkeling with sea turtles, flapping my finned feet in crystal clear aquamarine water, we watched the DVD about Father Damien. Ultimately, he contracts leprosy and dies, but not before transforming the leper colony into a place where people, even in impending death, sing together, pray together, and chant God's holy name together. He brought them the gift of life, even in the face of death. He knew he would probably contract the disease and die. It was a part of the package, and he was prepared for it. Not because he knew that he'd build a hospital and school and proper housing before he died, not because he knew that 100 years later a DVD would be made about him and sold in airport gift shops as part of a plan to increase tourism to Molokai. Not even because he knew that eventually he would be canonized by Pope Benedict the 16th and immortalized as Saint Damien. He was prepared for it because to serve those people was his work. For as long as, and as much as, and in whatever way, God wanted to use him. As the lungs breathe because they are lungs, as the stomach digests because it's a stomach, he served and died there because that was how the tool of his life was meant to be used. Tears poured down my face. By the time the movie ended, with a cutaway long shot of the colony he'd built and died in, flanked by some of the highest coastal cliffs in the world, floating as its own world in the middle of the green ocean, I had to rush into my room. I lay on my bed and sobbed, wordlessly and thoughtlessly. I did not sob for Father Damien's death or for the thousands of lepers who had died there. I did not sob for the unknown millions who have perished from leprosy around the world. I sobbed for the act of service. Yes, 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 to be used like that, to be chosen to be used that way, to have the will of God flow through you in a way that death also becomes life. This is what I want. I gasped in my tears and felt Father Damien begin to breathe inside me. At first, our breaths were disparate, mine fast and shallow, his deep and slow. Slowly, we began to breathe together, and in my breath now there was life. Yes, the lungs breathe because they are lungs. The nose has mucus because it's the nose. The tear ducts send rivers of salty river down my cheeks because that's what they do. And we serve not as separate doers, not to prove a point even of our own worthiness, not to earn the right to occupy our place on earth, but simply because with each breath, that is what we do. Our joint breath extinguished the fire that had burned me out. In the months and years that have followed, I find and lose and find again Father Damien's breath in mine. When I find it, I feel this saint breathing within me, and I cry. The gift, the fullness of being used in such a way. I serve, trying simply to feel the flow of the universe through me. How does the universe need me now? And whenever it starts to be about me, whenever frustration or fatigue starts to arise, I remember my guru ecstatically planning toilets while on a Hawaii vacation, because that's who he is. I find Father Damien within me and allow our breaths to align. I sit in the evening fire ceremony where the priests chant at the end of each mantra, Idam namam, Idam namam. Not me, for you. Not me, for you. Not me, for you. Oh wait. Actually, it says not for me, for you, not for me, for you, not for me, and not from me, for you, from you, through me, who is also you. Thank you for listening. That's the end of our 43rd chapter as we read through Hollywood to the Himalayas. And may that reading ignite the genuine spirit of service in all our hearts. Namaste.